Dr. Baker was, I can't remember where I was, but anyway, I think I was downstairs. Were you with Batinto Bats? That group?
Yes.
Yes, I sure was.
I remember when he defended, and I remember being in the building. Well, congrats. I was in counseling then. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Not for long, and then I left. Yeah. I've been around the world almost and back. But I'm so appreciative that you are serving and you're giving back. And thank you so much. You're welcome.
So I see my sister Wanda is here. I think she's on a meeting for work. She is a CPA for Spelman College. So she's pulling double duty. But I do see her here, as well as my husband. And I have a few family members joining today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Wendy,
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
so excited because of the pearls, but then I looked behind.
Oh, Doctor, now listen, Dr. Jalem Hall, please don't. we don't hold that against me.
With the pearls, just you know, makes me look a little bit differently this morning. And then I look behind and said, "Oh my God!"
Well, so
Teach her pleasing behaviors.
well. Now, Dr. Jalem Hall, I have my childhood friend and the daughter of my bishop, Melissa Bothwell. She's your sorors. I got some AKs on my team. They've been holding me up, so they've been carrying this Delta. It's 10 o'clock.
Push record and we will begin.
Okay.
Push record and we will begin.
Okay.
Good morning. I am Dr. Stephanie D.B. Johnson, the co-chairperson of the advisory committee for this proposal defense. Please place your cell phones on vibrate or turn them off. For those on Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, please mute your microphones. Today we're here for the doctoral candidate to present her proposal research that reflects a comprehensive understanding of the subject matter to clearly articulate all facets of the research process in fulfillment of the requirements of the Doctor of Philosophy degree she is planning. The advisory committee has a responsibility to ensure that the document meets applicable research standards. The committee was responsible for approving the subject matter and methodology for conducting the research that will take place. The committee also reviewed and commented on the draft of the manuscript and presented feedback on the quality of the data, evidence, and therefore certifying that this candidate is prepared for her proposal defense. As a point of personal privilege, I extend my personal thanks and appreciation to the committee for their comprehensive efforts and personal commitment to guide this candidate towards her proposal. Please permit me to introduce the committee as follows. Dr. Martha Gillum Hall, an associate professor who has served in many departments at Hampton University for years. She now chairs the education department, but I give her kudos for leading the department through a grueling accreditation process. Dr. Spencer Baker, an associate professor who is retired as the chair of the counseling department and a methodologist par excellence for the majority of the candidates. He is serving as an adjunct professor at this point. Then we have Dr. Renita Washington. She works at she is outside, one of the outside members. She is works at Georgia Institute of Technology in the School of Material Science and Engineering as the academic advisor and program manager. And she also was one of the first graduates of Hampton University's PhD program in 2013. And last but not least, we have Dr. Sarita Kaysen, who is an adjunct professor in the counseling department at Hampton University, a graduation coach at Hampton City Schools, and a 2017 graduate of our PhD department in educational management. I don't see anyone else who is on the is from the graduate college, but that would be Dr. Pim Marshall and Christy Cancel, Mrs. Christy Cancel. They're working diligently to get our students through to graduation on Sunday. In other guests, we want to take the opportunity to thank you for joining us, and thank you to Dr. Spencer Baker, who's always available for any technology issues that we have. Before I introduce the candidate, I would like to take a few minutes to review the process for the oral defense of the proposal. The candidate will begin the proposal defense and examination with an introduction of herself and her credentials, followed by a presentation of her research study and its relevance to include an introduction, statement of the problem, and research methodology. Following the presentation, I will provide an opportunity for all the committee members and the University Graduate College to question the candidates if there is anyone here from the graduate college. And at the discretion of our chair, the questions may be received from the audience according to time. At the conclusion of her proposal defense, the guest will be asked to leave the room, and the advisory committee will deliberate, and the committee will discuss the candidate's performance on this proposal examination. The candidate will be informed of the final disposition of our examination. Based on the committee's decision, the candidate will follow the guidelines established by the Graduate College and Hampton University to fulfill the requirements to move forward to the IRB process. I would like to take colleagues and guests, I would like to take the opportunity to present to you Mrs. Wendy K. Cotton.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. And thank you to everyone who's here to witness the oral defense of my dissertation research proposal. Before I start, I'd like to thank the advisory committee for their support and for their input and guidance on my process thus far. The title of my dissertation is Examining Technology Integration in K-12 Schools Through the TPAC Framework During the COVID-19 Pandemic. Introduction to the study. Technology literacy is critical for teaching and learning in the 21st century. It's actually the new currency by which students are able to access knowledge, able to collaborate with their peers and teachers, challenge ideologies, and demonstrate that they have mastery of the fundamental concepts across various disciplines. In essence, 21st century classroom technology and learning are inseparable. So the problem statement: technology integration is essential to teaching and learning. Teachers are the conduit by which successful technology integration occurs. And though some components are present for technology integration exist, the research indicates that barriers persist and that technology integration remains problematic. Problem background. Effective technology integration requires a special complex skill set. And that skill set should include three things: technology, a mastery of technology skills, a mastery of pedagogy, which is how you teach, and then a mastery of the content in order to achieve the desired learning outcome. So the TPAC framework by Mishra and Kohler concentrates on what teachers should be able to know and do in order to provide effective technology integration. Montgomery found the following components necessary for substantive technology integration: one, access to resources, supportive infrastructure, a climate that embraces technology learning, and teacher buy in. So, the digital age has triggered this evolution, almost a revolution in instructional practices as it relates to how we learn, how we teach, and how students learn. But this transformation, while it has many benefits, it still has some problems and some challenges that makes the realization of those benefits formidable. The teacher is the absolute nucleus of these transactions that make the difference between success and failure in technology integration. And so it is for this reason that teachers are the focus of this study. So, the purpose of this descriptive quantitative study is to examine technology integration in K 12 schools using the TPAC framework during the COVID-19 pandemic. This study is significant because it examines how teachers perceive their own abilities to successfully integrate technology, particularly during a global pandemic when they are required to be master technology users. So, technology integration, sound pedagogy, content mastery, all of that is nuanced and is multifaceted. So, the findings of this study could have implications for district leaders, school administrators, instructional specialists about the challenges, the authentic challenges that teachers experience with technology integration. There are three theoretical frameworks that will underpin this study: the TPAC framework, the SAMR model, and the sense making theory. TPAC stands for Technological Pedagogical Content Knowledge. And basically, TPAC asserts that in order for successful technology integration to occur, there needs to be a mastery of three main constructs, and that is technical skills, pedagogy, and content. And then the intersection of those three constructs creates where the magic is. And if you look at this model, where the arrow is pointing in the center, this is the confluence of all of the seven components of TPAC that make up technology integration. The SAMR model stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And so it is parallel to, in many ways, to Bloom's taxonomy. So the bottom two levels of the SAMR model are augmentation and substitution. And when teachers are engaged in those two levels, they are simply enhancing technology integration, but they don't change any functions of technology integration or functions of the learning. So at the modification and redefinition levels of SAMR, this is where the transformation takes place because students and teachers are able to create new knowledge and new learnings from the use of technology. The third theoretical framework is the sense making theory. And this is by Vike. And what he does is explains the ecological change that takes place when organizations encounter a phenomenon or a crisis. And so there are three stages to the ecological changes in the sense making theory. First is enactment. That's when you realize that there's an actual problem or there's a crisis, there's a phenomenon. And in this particular study, the phenomenon is the COVID-19 pandemic. After you realize it, then individuals move to the selection stage. And this is where they begin to analyze what choices they need to make in order to survive this particular crisis. The final stage is the retention stage. And this is where individuals mentally archive the processes and the changes to organizational structures they made in order to survive the crisis, so that if they encounter it again, then they can have success with it. So here's a theoretical connection to the study, and this is a model that kind of pulls everything in. So on the two sides, you see TPAC and SAMR, and those are theoretical frameworks. But the big bubble in the middle is the sense-making theory. And I put that in the background, not because it is necessarily the most important, but because it is prevalent in almost every facet of our lives, not just in teaching and learning. But, we're always in K-12 education, as well as in higher education, going through the process of sense making, encountering crises, coming up with solutions, and then archiving the changes that we made so that we can continue to thrive. Limitations and delimitations. So limitations are weaknesses that are imposed on a study through outside influences. They're without the researcher's control. So this study will be limited by schools in Georgia, K-12 schools. It will also be limited by the availability of teachers to participate in this study. And that's largely due to our still being in the COVID-19 pandemic. Delimitations, on the other hand, are weaknesses that are imposed on the study intrinsically by the researcher. And so the researcher has chosen not to include private schools, charter schools, or any non-traditional schools. This study will also not include any alternatively certified teachers. Operational terms. We have barriers. Barriers are obstacles that get in the way of you doing what you need to do. So Hugh and Brush coined first order barriers and second order barriers. First order barriers are barriers that you don't have any control over. They come from external influences. Second order barriers are barriers that come from within, like your own perceptions and predispositions to certain things. Blended learning is a hybrid form of learning that combines traditional and face-to-face. Digital immigrants are people who were born during a time where technology was not prevalent, and so using technology does not come naturally to digital immigrants. On the other hand, digital natives are people who were born during a technology age, like my nieces who are in college now, and they are on this session and they are watching their auntie present. So they are what I would call digital natives because it comes second nature to them. They use it just like they speak their native language. We have instructional technology, which is the theory and practice of designing and developing resources to facilitate learning. Instructional technology specialists are the school-based personnel who support the implementation of technology. Roomies and Zoomies are terms that were coined during the COVID-19 pandemic. Roomies are students who are physically present with their teacher in the class at the same time as their peers who will be present virtually. On the other hand, Zoomies are present virtually. They're on their Zoom while the teachers and classmates are physically in the classroom. So we've come to our literature review, and there are 5 themes that emerged during the literature review. The evolution of technology, teacher attitudes, role of leadership in technology integration, the barriers to technology, and technology integration during COVID-19. So I'm going to summarize each of these. The evolution of technology integration kind of started with the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. It was the first significant piece of legislation that funded technology spending. And so it started with making technology more efficient, and then making technology, teaching with technology more engaging, more relevant. And finally, we're at the stage where we're making teaching and learning transformative with technology. Teacher attitudes. To summarize, teachers will use technology, the research uh, indicated, when they deem that the technology is beneficial, when it is relevant, when they have access to it, not just access at the time, but continued access to it, and when it is convenient, and finally, when they feel supported by their school administration. And speaking of the role of leadership in technology integration, superintendents, school principals, district leaders, they are responsible for shaping the culture that play a special role in technology integration. They are responsible for retrofitting infrastructure to support technology integration. And so there's one particular study that I want to highlight by Heinzelman in 2017. It was a case study about technology integration in a school that supported students with special needs, emotional behavior disorders. And these are the findings of that study. Teachers first discovered that they recognized the need for access to technology and for ongoing professional development. They express an appreciation for the technology and for the support that they receive from their administration. Both teachers and principals recognize the improvement of school culture as well as the improvement of academic performance of these students with emotional behavioral disorders. And this model indicates what happened during that study. Barriers to technology integration, first order. These are external influences to technology integration, things such as school infrastructure, access to devices, and so forth, and even global pandemic. So COVID-19 would be a first order barrier. Second order barriers would be things like teachers' attitudes about technology and how they feel they are able to actually integrate technology. And finally, we come to the impact of COVID-19. So, COVID on teaching and learning. So, COVID-19 it's been catastrophic and far reaching. There have been school closures for indefinite and intermittent periods of time that force parents to have to make complicated decisions about how to educate their children. And this, let's go one more. Okay, this model indicates some of the impacts and the outcomes of COVID-19, the influences on K-12 education, from the disruption to learning, to funding, students dropping out, limited learning facilities, so forth and so on, even job losses. The application of the sense making theory during COVID 19 is very apropos because this is exactly what we've done during COVID 19. Uh, Teachers and schools had to first realize, and our government really, that this is a thing, this is actually happening, and we have to deal with it. They moved to the selection stage, they created solutions that range from traditional to virtual to hybrid. And then we are still in the retention stage where we're deciding how we're going to deal with this in the future. Traditional face to face learning happens probably according to geographic area and political leanings influenced whether schools went face to face or remained face to face. Virtual had the most profound and visible impact because teachers, even if they were adept at using technology before to teach, they had to hone a new skill set to teach in an all virtual environment. The US Census said that 93% of children were learning virtually during the COVID 19 pandemic. And what was complicated, uh, what further complicated this was the disparities in resources. And so this slide indicates the disparities in resources for our children coming from socioeconomically challenged backgrounds and students who were in backgrounds where they had the resources they needed at home. So here it is in red and blue. The blue represents students who had online resources at home, and then the red represents students who had to rely on paper resources to continue their learning. And it goes along the continuum of their household income. Finally, hybrid instruction, that's a blended learning with the roomies and zoomies, teachers teaching students in class as well as teaching students on Zoom at the same time. And that also required yet another different skill set. Research methodology. The researcher will use a descriptive survey design to conduct this study. So, descriptive research is done when the goal is for the researcher to discover the what is about a certain population. It can be used in quantitative and qualitative research, but because this study will use numerical values as opposed to thick, rich descriptions, to describe teachers' abilities to integrate technology, quantitative research was deemed the most appropriate to gather data. Here, the research setting, you see stats about the state of Georgia, going from the number of counties, school districts, teachers, and students, even the ethnicities. The teacher population, teachers will, of course, teach in the state of Georgia, grades K through 12, certified by the Georgia Professional Standards Commission, and evaluated on the Teacher Keys Effectiveness System. And this slide shows what the teacher population looks like in terms of demographics in the state of Georgia. So the research question, there are 7 research questions, and they are directly aligned to the 7 components of the TPAC framework. How do teachers perceive their technical knowledge? How do teachers perceive content knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, pedagogical content knowledge, technological content knowledge, technological pedagogical knowledge, and technological pedagogical content knowledge, which is TPAC. The instrumentation will be the survey of pre-service teachers' knowledge of teaching and technology. It will be used to collect data. It was developed by Schmidt and others in 2009, and the purpose is to measure teachers' perceptions of their abilities to integrate technology. Validity. Validity is defined as how well an instrument measures what it is proposed to measure. There are 3 types of validity: face validity, content validity, construct validity. Face validity is the least reliable because it simply is a person looking at the instrument and deciding based on how they read the questions whether or not it is valid. Content and construct validity. Content validity is a measurement of how well the instrument measures the actual subject matter that it targets, and construct validity focuses on the ability of the instrument to measure intended concepts. So this instrument has demonstrated both content and construct validity. It was developed by 3 researchers that have extensive expertise in TPAC. They evaluated 44 items for content validity to establish that each question measured the TPAC domain that it was supposed to measure. They used a 10-point scale, 10 representing the greatest extent, 1 representing the least extent. And below you see the different constructs of TPAC and where they fell on the continuum of the 10-point scale. Reliability and internal consistency. Reliability is the instrument's measurement of how of its probability to generate consistent results over a period of time within that construct. Internal consistency describes how well the test items within a construct relate to each other. For example, there may be four items on a question, four questions on a survey that ask the same questions but in different ways. I know I've experienced that, and I've always wondered, why are they asking me why am I answering the same question but in a different way? Well, this is why. It's because they're trying to establish internal consistency. Cronbach's alpha is a test of internal consistency. It can be used to determine how closely those questions are related to each other. Scores of internal consistency range from 0 to 1. An internal consistency score of 0.70 or above is considered reliable. So this instrument has an internal consistency coefficient alpha ranging from 0.75 to 0.92. And this chart illustrates the internal consistency for each of the TPAC domains. Data collection. The researcher will use the firm Qualtrics to field and incentivize the research participants. The responses from the survey will be analyzed using the Qualtrics software, and the results will be exported into a CSV file, which is a spreadsheet. From there, for analysis, the CSV file will be imported into SPSS software, and a statistical analysis will be performed to determine mean, median, and mode for each question and construct. Ethical considerations. Participants will be formally invited to participate in the study with a letter of invitation and informed consent created by the researcher, but distributed via email by the Qualtrics firm. The letter of invitation and informed consent explains the purpose and procedures of the study. It describes and clarifies benefits and risks related to the study. And it also explains to participants that their participation is voluntary, that their identities will be protected through anonymity, and that they can withdraw from the study at any time without penalty. In summary, the purpose of this descriptive quantitative study is to examine technology integration in K-12 schools using the TPAC framework during the COVID-19 pandemic from the perceptions of classroom teachers. Here are some of the references that were used in the presentation. And now, Dr. Stephanie Johnson, the Dissertation Advisory Committee co-chair, will now moderate the question and answer session. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Wendy, for an informative and ordered, outstanding presentation of your the proposal defense. I will now open this session up for questions, beginning with the committee, and I will start with Dr. Baker.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, and thank you, Ms. Cotton, for a very explanatory presentation, going into detail and making sure that people understand exactly what was meant by internal consistency. Can you go to slide 31 for me, please?
Yes, sir.
And my comments are just for future presentations. Your demographics are real small, it's hard to read, so you may want to break that into 2 slides at a later date.
Gotcha.
Go to slide 33. Here, I know that you make mention of it in your document, but you did not make mention that this survey of pre-service teachers' knowledge of teaching and technology has also been used with in-service teachers and
Yes.
then validated with in-service teachers because those are your participants.
Yes,
Go to
that is true.
slide 35. Go to slide 35. I'm interested in, of course, both technical knowledge and pedagogical knowledge. They were rated so low on the content validity.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the Chromebook alphas are there, but you may want to speak to those in future presentations to say that yes, although the ratings were sort of low, the internal consistencies were somewhat high.
Okay. Duly noted.
Only slide 39. Why are you looking at the mode? You say that you're going to look at the mean, the median, and the mode. What? Why are you doing that?
Because that's a part of descriptive research, as much as the mean and the median. And it was my understanding, this may not be correct, but that when the statistical analysis is done in SPSS, that it will show the mean, the median, and the mode. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, but why? What does the mode tell you?
The mode tells you which score is repeated the most, what shows up the most in a statistical analysis. So if there,
Talk about, yes, I understand. Uh, Talk to me about Qualtrics. What process does Qualtrics use? You don't explain it well enough in your document. You just assume that everybody understands Qualtrics process.
got it.
So I'm going to ask you to add that to the document, but
Okay.
can you tell me Qualtrics process?
So Qualtrics is a research a surveying firm. They perform many functions, and many of you have probably taken a survey that was sent out by Qualtrics, and you weren't even aware of it. So they have access to databases of all kinds of um, people, including teachers. So they already have a database of teachers throughout the country who have signed up to take surveys for them, and they have ways of reaching out to them in a time efficient manner. And they also do incentivize the candidates for their time based on how long the survey is. But they don't tell me specifically what they will give to the participants for their time. They do have a document that they have given me for a 2-page document to present to the IRB committee so that they will understand what they're doing and how they work.
So you, like I said, explain it more in your document.
Okay.
And also the question, why are you limiting yourself to Georgia if Qualtrics can give you a national data set?
Well, that's a good question, Dr. Baker. And I actually went back and forth between whether or not I would just limit myself to Georgia or make it nationwide. I think the study would be a valid study either way, but it is simply because I'm a Georgia resident, I'm a Georgia educator, and I didn't take the time in the beginning to talk about my background, but I'm a 25-year veteran educator in K 12 schools, 18 years as a secondary social studies teacher, but the last 7 years in instructional technology. So I had a specific interest in how this is working in my home state and what teachers in the state of Georgia, how they would respond.
So what would be your sample size?
100.
And then you know I'm gonna ask the question, why 100?
Well, I think that would give us a good enough indication of about um, how generalizable the results are. Because of COVID-19, I would love to get several hundred responses. I just don't think that's realistic during this particular time.
Okay, we'll talk about the sample size later. But
Okay.
thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Again, for a very informative presentation. Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
You're welcome, Dr. Renita Washington.
Hi, Wendy.
Hello.
And hi, committee and all guests. Actually, Dr. Baker asked the one question that I had, Wendy, about why you chose to limit the study just to Georgia. So since you gave a little bit of your background, I understand why you picked Georgia, since you've been, like you said, a veteran teacher here for many years.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate that there was so much information on the slides that you clearly and concisely made this understandable for us. I think that it's great that you did pick a subject that is so apropos for what's going on right now. So whatever happens with the data, once you get past this stage and finish up this study, I'm very interested to see what comes of it. And hopefully that others can use it to see how to proceed when either the next pandemic comes or whatever the next challenges comes, because we can't go back to how we were teaching. I really thank you for this, and you did an excellent job. So I am so proud of you.
Thank you, Dr. Washington.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Dr. Gillum Hall.
Good morning again, Ms. Cotton.
Thank you.
I too want to echo the sentiments of my previous committee members. What an awesome, and unique, concise presentation. Well organized, well developed. I have to tell you, I've learned so much this morning, probably because of the study is so current, so relevant to some of the struggles that I know we are having in the academy with regards to the pandemic and the technology integration for us as educators and for those of us with children. I've learned there's a new word, roomies and zoomies. And, I've got a 17-year-old and I've come to see that the TV is on, but the teacher is on the tablet, and then he's cooking at the same time. And my mind is just blown. Aren't you in school? And then every day it's something else is sitting outside, and I'm thinking, what is going on? But you have just really enlightened me with these two words, roomies and zoomies. So now I can capture what's going on at home with my own son. But then sometimes when I'm teaching as well, I hear other voices,
Mm-hmm.
and we come to realize that parents are now on the other end when we're working and you were teaching. So
Yes.
thank you for that. You've enlightened me so much. I was going to ask the questions about Qualtrics. Thank you, Dr. Baker. You already asked that, and Dr. Washington as well. I'm just so excited about this research. I've got to tell you, I'm so excited. Who will benefit from the research? And what are the wider implications? What do you plan to do with it? You know,
Well,
some of the questions that I.
those are good questions, and were it not for the time constraints, I would have loved to have made this a mixed methods um, study, because there are so many different components to how COVID-19 has affected technology integration and teaching and learning in K-12 schools. So one of the things that I would like to do is to get the qualitative piece. Parents definitely have their own voice about this, and they have a lot to say because they were forced to be a part of the educational process of their children, and I would love their input into what they thought about it. Um, I have some ideas, but already, but I do want to interview parents as well as interview teachers because we're getting the quantitative piece, but the qualitative piece I think will add what the stats may not give you. So I plan to present this at the Georgia Educational Technology Conference in the fall, present my research, and it's a conference that my department attends every year. So that's one thing I would like to do. But I am interested in bringing in the qualitative piece and expanding to see, I know that my executive director is interested in what the results are because it will have implications perhaps for some of the decisions that she makes.
Wonderful,
Mhm.
wonderful. Keep us abreast of these presentations.
I will. Thank you.
I wanted to, wonderful. I wanted to ask further. I think on page 44, you mentioned about the research participants and that only certified teachers will be included in the sample. And certified meaning that they have some type of endorsement in their respective areas.
Yes.
So does that mean, how will the firm ensure that they are only sending or receiving the data from certified teachers?
Well, so on the instrument in the demographic section at the beginning, um, the questions are asked about their certifications. So aside from just their honesty, I don't know that they would have a way of knowing, but we do ask that that they answer those questions in the beginning.
Mhm. So it's self-reported. Now,
Yes.
what I do want you to make sure is that Qualtrics understands that you only want the samples the data that's disaggregated by people choosing certified teachers. We don't want those without certification to be included. So I think you may need to make that very clear to
Okay,
ensure that
absolutely.
your data. Right. So that's just a little thing to think about.
Okay.
And I was wondering about the counties because this will include data, you're going to disaggregate it by ethnicities. So what about the different counties? How will you know? Will you know what areas or what part of the state the responses are coming from? Is
I
that an,
So that's not one of the questions that I ask.
okay?
So I won't know because all of Georgia has more counties than any state in the United States. That's not to say it's more
Mhm.
populated, but it just has more divisions, and of course that's that's all political. But no, that's not one of the questions I asked. Some of the counties are very small and not very well populated. So I didn't think about asking, um, which counties or which school districts.
Mhm. Well, it's not part of the study, but think about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can just collect it for your information, you might be able to go back. I know it's
Got
not
it.
part of the study, but it's just
Got
a
it.
little information to have.
Okay.
Yes,
Of course.
thank you so much. And,
Thank you.
I think Dr. Johnson, Dr. McGee has some questions.
Okay, we're gonna go to Dr. Sarita Kasem first.
Okay.
Dr. Kasem?
Good morning. Wendy, like the committee members before me have said, job well done, very impressive. Looking forward to your outcomes. A lot of my questions have also been answered by the questions that have been put forth by the committee members. One question I do have is that in your limitations, you mentioned that private schools, charter school, and non-traditional schools would not be included. We do understand that they were also affected by the pandemic. Why was the decision made to not include them?
Well, I didn't include them because they have different procedures in terms of certification, and they have access to different resources that public schools don't have. And so, and in order to make it consistent in terms of the population, I didn't think it would be a good idea to include private schools as well as non-traditional and charter schools.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. And
Mhm.
again, I'm very impressed with your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Kaysen.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. McGee.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for giving me a chance just to ask Wendy a few questions. One of the things, Wendy, I would like to commend you on is the fact that you've gone into the literature and the theoretical constructs and have found information in the sense-making theory that can address much of what you are going to present here for your dissertation, because we know that many agencies, our legal system, government, education, are all grappling with how to adapt to what has occurred in the wake of COVID-19. And so your discussion is well grounded in existing literature that already sets that framework for you, where
Yes.
many individuals are having to use that perspective themselves in order to adjust and readjust to this new reality.
Uh-huh.
But I had a question. At first, I had asked about power analysis, but then I realized this is a descriptive study. But normally, when we work descriptive studies, we don't use the power analysis, but we do take into account other issues such as generalizability. And so while it's not necessary for you to engage in any type of analysis to set your sample size, one of the things that I think that you may want to think about as you write your rationale for choosing that 100 is to be more concerned with the generalizability of your findings, in the sense that the number of questions on your surveys, the number of surveys that you have, start thinking about the types of survey items and the general size of that sampling frame. And then, of course, what are the expectations in terms of your response rates? So those are some things that I would suggest you take a look at as you write a stronger rationale for the choice of that 100 as your sample size.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. McGee.
And I was also thinking, as you were speaking about the issue of Georgia, is there something unique to Georgia, a unique feature of Georgia, that would have you analyze the data just from Georgia, even though you have access to other areas?
I don't know that there is a unique feature that would make me choose Georgia, other than this is my home state, and so I just have I just have personal interest in responses from Georgia. Of course,
And
go ahead.
go ahead. I'm thinking, is what you are seeing as you write about Georgia, is this really representative of what's occurring across the country?
I do think it is, and that is, of course, now there will be some outliers, states who don't have a large population, like maybe Montana or Idaho or North or South Dakota. Their experiences might not be similar to those who are, in more densely populated states with large urban areas and suburban areas and large universities that attract people and jobs and companies. So, but aside from those outliers, I think that the makeup of Georgia would be consistent with uh, many other states in the Southeast, and that our experiences with COVID 19 and technology integration, I think those have been universal, for largely universal. Yeah.
I haven't seen your document, but have you addressed that? Just what you said, just what you just stated to me, has that been addressed as you open up your discussion of your dissertation and how you would place Georgia within that more broader perspective?
Um, no, but you know what? I can add it because I think that's a good
Yeah, I would
piece.
suggest
Yeah.
you do,
Yeah.
Wendy, and the reason is
Hmm.
because it provides greater rationale for your choice of study, your location.
Got
We
it.
know that, of course, it's because of the convenience and it's where you're from and
Right.
you're closest to that. But
Right.
in terms of scholarly work, we want to set that within the framework of a larger dimension. And
Got it.
so, just as you phrased it, I think that gives greater credence to the idea of being able to use what you have
Uh-huh.
while at the same time understanding that it is occurring elsewhere. There are some, like you said, unique outliers, but this is why I've chosen to use this particular setting. Very,
Got
very
it.
good.
Thank you, Dr.
Oh,
McGee. I
and my
appreciate it.
last question, Wendy, Dr. Baker had mentioned it to the mode. Now, we know with descriptive statistics, we tend to address those from time to time, but what is the reasoning behind using that mode? Because normally when we use survey data and we're presenting this in a descriptive fashion, we're focusing more on issues of, for example, your frequencies, your
Hmm.
means, percentages, and certainly standard deviations and standard errors. Modes are generally used for, as we know, the nominal data. And so I'm not quite sure what value that would add, looking just at a mode.
Got it. So that's something
So,
that I will talk further with Dr. Baker, I'm sure, and
yes,
and that could be removed.
okay,
Right.
yes.
That's an easy adjustment.
Yes, that's fine. So
Hmm.
just a few things, but I do commend you for really engaging in very timely work and you're situating your analysis within the broader text of what's occurring here with COVID-19, while at the same time remaining grounded in theory and scholarship that has already addressed what individuals must do in times of crisis within education. So very good.
Thank you so much, Dr. McGee.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. McGee. I am going to call on Dr. Charbonnet, but I'm taking an announcement break. We're going to start at 10:15 for Israel Edie because we are at 10:56 right now, and here's us to begin at 11. So 11:15, we will go into Israel Edie's. We thank you for the wonderful questions, but we want to complete this one and do it the right way. So
I'm sorry, Doctor. I'm sorry.
It had nothing to do with you. We don't usually time them that close. They were wonderful questions, and we gained a lot from it. Dr.
Mhm.
Charbonnet.
Good morning.
Good
And
morning, Dr.
Wendy,
Charbonnet.
oh, we're so proud of you. This presentation was truly excellent. And I love your selection of the topic, and the use of Qualtrics, I think, is really great. But with a sample size of 100 and using just the state of Georgia, where you have 181 school districts. Why did you select Qualtrics? Could you have done this without it? So I think that needs to be justified, but in your paper a little bit more. But just talk about why did you select Qualtrics for this?
Absolutely. I can quickly answer that because that was not my intent from the beginning. But I discovered that there were going to be some um, some obstacles getting through IRBs in local school districts because of COVID-19. They've tightened up, their processes, and they are reluctant, um, and they're not accessible. And so then that made me think about other alternatives. And since Qualtrics already has a database of teachers, that is the reason I turned to them. But I do agree that that needs to be further explained in my paper.
Yes, but excellent. I think you've done a tremendous job, and I can't wait to see the results and what you're going to add to the body of knowledge in this area. So wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Charbonnet.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Charbonnet. I'm going to forego any questions. Just want you to know, Wendy, I'll wait for the final defense for that. I will just share with you that I think your presentation was very impressive. The slides were extremely impressive. I think we'll steal a few of those slides, like the theory slide. Those were the framework. They were just awesome, and it just went on to show how great you are in the area of technology. I know your husband's here, your father's here, your nieces are here, your
Yes.
sister might be here, but I don't have a time for, because we're crunched for time.
Right.
I don't have time. I'll let if your husband wants to say something, I will let him make a comment. But outside of that, we'll have to move on.
Hey, great job, Wendy. I feel very educated on the topic, so thank you. Good job.
Thank you, honey.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support. I appreciate you.
All right. Okay. We're going to ask everyone who's on the. Was there somebody that was the coordinator here? I don't see her. We're going to ask everyone to leave, and Willie, I'll give you a call back in a few minutes.
Okay.
Anybody who wants to put something and what to put a comment in the comment area, you can do that. But we're going to ask you to leave so that we can have a deliberation and come back and share with Wendy what our dealings are. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
If you don't have a comment, please leave right at this time.